Welcome everybody, my name is Terminus, and today we're gonna watch Monogatari episode 7. We're gonna go into a new arc! I do apologize for the sound quality, by the way. I am on vacation, so I'm working with like secondary equipment right here, and the room echo is going on. I don't have that designed the way I have it at home, but either way, we're gonna do this. We're gonna dig into this new arc, and I'm really excited about the Shinobu content, which is hopefully gonna come. I don't know if it's gonna come. I didn't see the preview, but I know people were excited about the preview, so we're definitely gonna go and see how this is gonna be. Let me just... I just saw something. The mic is right here, so it's kind of obscuring a little bit the light that is going on to my face. It's not that bad, but I'm kind of a little bit of a perfectionist going with that. What happened last time? Yeah, we had an interlude that I didn't expect. I mean, it's a very welcome one, but surely unexpected that we did have Shinobu kiss shot Acerola Orion Heart Underblade, the iron-blooded, hot-blooded, cold-blooded vampire, in the focus limelight again. Not yet vampire though. So last time we did see the origin of her, and it was very Oddity-like, wasn't it? Right? We did have a very larger than life tale, and as the tale in the beginning said, we shouldn't take that as an actual real story because it would feel and seem way too far from our conceptualization of reality. And that makes sense, right? Fables, tales, myths, they're being passed on from generation to generation, either by writing or verbally, and everybody who kind of transcribes that stuff is putting a little bit of their own interpretation on it, especially if we are going from language to language, or if century to century these things are being passed on. There's always cultural sensitivities as well as specific things regarding the language that are very much being mistranslated or translated in a way for us to be like, okay, because I am a historian or whatever, I understand what in the context of that culture, that specific way to phrase it means, but I have to translate it to this new cultural era or to this new language where people who, like the everyday person who maybe isn't as tuned to what cultural customs were in different countries or in the same country in different eras would understand, right? Somebody who is born in this era who doesn't busy themselves with what happened in the past, at least not more than just the normal curriculum in the school, would be able to understand these things. And so stuff is lost in translation, changed in translation, and then there's authors as well, right? People who put their own stamp on it and kind of put their own connotations into it. Be that either because they feel like this is something they have to do because they think it's not proper the way it was displayed in the beginning, or maybe in other ways. And so you end up with stories that seem very much larger than life, maybe to drive home a point as well. But also, you never know, right? You never know what the circumstances, the general societal stuff was back then. There's behaviors that we have that seem very, very foreign to us these days, that people maybe 200, 300, 600 years ago had. People back then maybe assumed it was a very natural and normal thing to think or to do or to feel. And the end result of that is oftentimes that we read these stories today, and we get those stories told today, and we're like, that seems really weird. I don't know if that makes sense to me. So yeah, it was certainly a very extreme story, right? But in a way, this is like somebody in the comments. I'm not going to show the comments, but it's very interesting. Somebody in the comments actually said it's very interesting how this could, like this story that happened to Shinobu back in the day when she was a princess, kind of could be interpreted in a way that we do have a person that is the ultimate paradoxic distortion, in a way that people have been just projecting everything that they feel and think onto that person, and the person was almost like mirroring that, or people have been projecting it onto that person that was in such high standing, right? That was such an idol that people looked up to, that people revered. And in a way, this in itself is how oddities are made. Obviously, however the public or society views a topic, however we interpret it, however we see certain things in a certain light or from a certain perspective, commonly seen perspectives are often projected onto these myths and legends that we tell. That goes as much for things like European fairy tales, like the Brothers Grimm created them, as well as American-ish, right? American South, for example, if we look at like the stories of Sir Edgar Allan Poe, if we look at Shakespearean plays, if we look at the old dramas of the Greek origin, and like all the way back in Athens when people like Socrates or Homer were around and were writing their books and publishing their works, or even before that, right? Myths about gods and about strange beings. If we look at Japanese culture and the yokai and all of the gods that exist in Shintoism, there's a very interesting, like, all of these characteristics that these and latent traits and whatever, and general themes that the gods and that these beings have are in a way kind of really relatable to oddities, because all of them are derived from human characteristics, from societal norms and standards, from wishes and beliefs, from general things that concern human beings in their everyday life. And it's not that different from what we have in terms of the oddities. Another thing that the comments mentioned, and it's the only other thing that we had, was that there seems to be a lot of overlap between Shinobu and Nadeko. We already noticed that to a degree, but also between Shinobu and Hanekawa, interestingly enough. So I do wonder if this is going to come up down the line. But this could be at the root of Shinobu's rather, I'd say, first of all, harsh treatment of these people. I do think that Shinobu over the time has made more than one very interesting remark about Hanekawa as the pre-Ovari story was going on with Araragi and whatnot. But she also had that confrontation with Nadeko that from her perspective maybe wasn't more than prodding and teasing and just poking where it hurts. But Shinobu in a way is very immature in some cases. We do see that a lot, and it is probably in part because she takes the form of a child now, and as such, oddities are very much influenced by how people see them and by which people directly interact with them and perceive them. So in a way, it makes sense that Shinobu reflects that more childish side of Araragi, but also the more childish behavior in general as representing as a child in physical form. And as such, there's a lot of that's coming through when you look at jealousy, when you look at petty behavior as well. We had that a couple of times over the course of time where Shinobu was acting in a way that was, on the one hand, very prideful, but more very like prideful in a way that a child would be, not in a way that somebody grown up would be. And many of these behaviors for her to mask how embarrassing moments or mask situations in which she is less powerful than she actually would like to appear to be. We had that in the past where she wasn't capable of doing something but was kind of masking and overplaying that by acting all high and mighty and laughing about it at first and making snarky comments about it, instead of being like, oh yeah, no, I can't do anything about it, it's kind of a problem. And in the same vein, her jealous remarks or her like poking remarks towards Nadeko feel like this is her identifying a little bit too much with Nadeko, and maybe on the one hand identifying in a way that she pities certain situations and certain like states of being that Nadeko is in, but on the other hand I do feel it's also in a way her being maybe jealous and envious of certain aspects of Nadeko that Nadeko was actually able to change, that Nadeko was actually able to overcome. But she acknowledges that in the like in episode 6, well, at least partially, right, in her typical Shinobu fashion. But that's a very cool overlap that we have here. I do wonder if we will see more parallels going on as the arc continues. Now, for all I know, this might not even be a Shinobu arc, but I'm pretty much expecting it because we had that interlude going into it, and it makes perfect sense to do it now. Unless we spin a tale like Koyomi, where we do like a bunch of interlude arcs that then culminate in something, but with 14 episodes that we have at hand and us being at episode 7, it makes perfect sense to have 1 or 2 more arcs, and maybe even just one that is spread across the next, I don't know how many episodes, right? Like probably 8 episodes. We could do 4 probably if the arcs are more short, on the short side. We'll see. Monogatari, episode 7. Let's just jump into it. We're probably not gonna have an intro this time, so very interesting. It starts in a 3, a 2, a 1. Bam! Ah, Wazamonogatari. Okay, I'm gonna look up what Waza means. Asarola bon appetit, pad. Okay, cool. Alright, so 1. Oh, the organ music. Holy shit.
キスショットアセロラオリオンハートアンダーブレードって名前は俺様が考えてやった。
You thought of the name.
のもなんだがクールでハードで最高にいい名前だ。
Ooh, hardy.
だけど正直に言うと俺様はそのことを少しだけ後悔してもいる。
The dagger on the
俺様はあいつに名前をつけるべきじゃなかったのかもしれない。
Ooh, somebody named her. Okay.
ほら。よく言うだろう。
Yeah, somebody made her.
つけたら情が移るって。
Minion.
その情が友情だったのか愛情だったのか、それとも烈情だったのかは今となっちゃ定かじゃねえが。
Okay, not sure what it means.
しかし確かに言えることが一つある。あれは食欲じゃなかった。
Not appetite.
だってキスショットアセロラオリオンハートアンダーブレードじゃ。
Marionettes. It's a little bit long for a meal. Ooh, holy shit, that's some like Vlad the Impaler castle bullshit. Look at that production value. Wow. That is lighting. Died yet again. And we do have an actual marionette puppet. Oh, okay. It sounds like... Yeah, it sounds like it's flesh. Like a flesh puppet. Holy fuck. Is that Shinobu? What the fuck? It sounds like...
うまいに決まってんだろう。俺様のお頭だぜ。
She's cannibalizing herself. I eat the lives I kill. How did you come here? Oh, Hime-sama.
私が心配しているのは別のことです。
別のことってなんだよ。亡国のお姫様は俺様の何を心配してるって言うんだ。
Princess of a ruined nation.
私を殺そうとするのを諦めた方がいいと言っているのです。
Trying to kill me.
絶対に不可能なのですから。
Absolutely impossible.
死に方こそ違えど死因は同じ。死因アセロラ姫。
Princess
あなたが
Aserola.
そうやって何度も繰り返し死んでいらっしゃる原因が私だけにあるように言われるのは心外です。
Okay, so even like an immortal being.
しなければあなたが死ぬことは一度だってなかったのですか。
So why does she die?
殺意じゃねえ。食欲だ。
She has a desire, right?
では仕方ありませんね。どうぞ召し上がれ。
And she's gonna go and... Holy shit. I mean, she wants to die, kind of, right? This is like the with her backstory. That is some crazy art. I love like the negative image thing.
どうやら5度目の死を迎えたらしい。
And the half moon. And we're at the 3. The 5th death, but it's a 3. Okay. Subchapter 3 or something. I do love like the gothic
どうやらまた死んでし
design.
まったらしい。このニュアンスからすると、今回は餓死したようだ。
Starved
餓
to
死は
death.
珍しいな。一体俺様に何があったんだ？
She doesn't understand what's happening. Ooh, minion?
表を上げろ。トロピカレスクホームアウェイブドッグストリングス。
What the fuck are these
今や俺
names?
様の眷属はこいつだけになっちまった。
The throne, right? We're looking up. Holy shit.
この私めを食していただこうかと考えておりました、マスター。
Bro's a tool.
何があった？
I do love the later.
食糧難でございました。どうやら王国の人間が絶滅してしまったようなのでございます。
王国の人間が絶滅？
By Aurora.
そう言われてみれば、ぼんやりと思い当たる記憶がないでもなかった。腹が減ったので食事をしに出かけて、しかし人間が一人も見当たらず、途方に暮れたような記憶。食べるものがなく、飢えて、乾いて、干からびた記憶。吸血鬼が食糧難に陥るほどの絶滅状態に陥っているという。
But how did she
疫
read?
病の類か。俺様の食材が傷んだのか。
疫病といえば疫病です。ただし、美しさという名の病。
The Princess Beauty.
マスター、美し姫の童話をご存知
Okay, so this is before she met her. Cruel fairy
帝国の
tale.
美女という言葉は知っていたが、しかしそれに倣って言うなら、トロピカレスクが語って聞かせた美し姫は亡国の美女だった。
A ruined
その美
nation.
しさだけで国を滅ぼしたお姫様、大量虐殺のプリンセス。興味深い童話だった。なんだつまり、自国を滅ぼし自国を追われたお姫様が流浪の末にこの王国にたどり着いて、
The music, holy
こ
fuck.
の国は滅んだってわけか。
はい。王族や貴族を含めた全国民が喜んで美し姫に命を捧げたそうです。我先に一番大切なものを捧げることで、彼女の美しさ
And we're retelling the interlude.
したのです。
ただそこにいるだけで一国を滅ぼすとは、その女どんな怪物なんだよ。
怪物ではなく人間です。人間の
An actual real human.
そうやって彼女はこれまでいくつもの国を滅ぼしてきたようです。ただ旅をして通り過ぎるだけで。
なる
Oh
ほど、
shit.
疫病だな。よし、決めたぞ、トロピカレスク。こたびの目覚めの一食には、そのお姫様を。
And that was the start of it, right?
久々の食事としては申し分なかろう。
マスター、それは。
俺様のこだわりである空っぽの腹に入れるのは特別な食材であるべきだ。
僭越ながら申し上げますが、マスター、それはおよしになった方がよろしいかと、どうか考え直してください。何とぞ何とぞ。
なぜだトロピカレスク、この俺様にまた餓死しろというのか。
しかし美し姫は先ほどご報告いたしました通り、生中な怪物よりもよっぽど
Essentially more evil
トロ
than
ピ
the
カレス
average.
ク、我が下僕。貴様、俺様がその女の虜になるのではと心配しているのか。
Seems like his worry was
俺
justified.
様も人間ども同様に浸水した末にそのお姫様に命を捧げるとでも。
滅相もございません。でしたらまずはそのあたりの死体から食され体力を回復させてからというのはいかがでしょうか、マスター。
You dare make me eat corpses?
いいかトロピカレスク、
It's beneath
貴様
me.
がどんな風に栄養を補給しようと、それは貴様の勝手だ。死人を食おうと死体を食おうと好きにしたらいい。だがそれは貴様の好きであって俺様の好きじゃないんだ。俺様が食うのは 自分で殺した人間
Only
だけ
those I killed myself.
殺してく。それが俺様の主義だ。吸血鬼としての、そして食通としての譲れない一線だ。自分で殺した食材以外はできる限り食いたくねえ。今は俺様のお腹が美し姫気分だから、美し姫を食べる。亡国の美女を殺して食べる。好きに食べる。殺して食べる。そう決めた。決めた。
So what
決
happens?
めた通りにやるのが俺様だ。
Doing what I decide upon. We're gonna dissect some of the dialogue here.
ついてくるなよ我が重木。
わかりました。忠実なる下僕はお帰りをお待ちしております。どうかくれぐれもお気をつけていってらっしゃいませ、マスター。
ああ、そうだ。マスターなどというありきたりな継承で俺様を呼ぶのはよせ。寝起きで気づくのが遅れてしまったが、そんな平凡な故障を許した覚えはないぞ。
申し
Okay.
訳ありません。いってらっしゃいませ、スーサイドマスター。決心して必死にして万死の吸血鬼デストピアビルトゥオーゾスーサイドマスター。
Okay, the names. Gonna take me a while to remember that. I'm just gonna use Deftopia, okay? It sounds weird, but okay. We're gonna use that. And she's flying on the wings, okay. This is so different from like the art style and whatnot from our usual fucking tales. Holy shit. Like it looks so different. I love it, don't get me wrong. From the trees down, oh, that's cool, that's cool. And the music, holy shit. It feels more like a movie than it does like an episode. Also tell me if I'm just talking too much. Everything is gray except for the fire and the stuff. And that's how they met. I love the red eyeshadows. Ooh.
どのくらいの間
Heterochromia.
死んでいた。
死んでいたのはほんのちょっぴりの間です。そしてあなたを殺したのはあなた自身です。
And she doesn't even remember that.
あなたは自殺したのです。私を殺そうとしたから。
Hey, you tried to kill her and then for
あなたが
that.
どうして私を殺そうとするのか。それなりの理由があるのだろうとはお察ししますが、どうか思いとどまってください。せっかく生き返った命を無駄にしないでください。
I think it's very like her outfit is very
つ
interesting.
まりあれか。
Kaka?
貴様の美しさを傷つけることをためらうどころか、そんな暴挙に及ぼうとした自分が許せず、俺様は自殺を試みたということか。
そういうことです。
おい、俺様は化け物だぞ。
そのようですね。
吸血鬼。
そうですか。まさか実在したとは。
人間を殺して食うモンスターだ。
Oh, that's cool.
あの行動は私を食べようとしてのことだったのですね。答えて
いただきます。
申し訳ありませんでした。
Holy shit, her politeness.
いや、
お腹が空いてらっしゃるようでしたら、ご一緒にいかがですか？
I think it's just interesting how little they show her face.
俺様は自分で殺した生き物しか食わねえ。
Could she eat animals? Would that be enough?
でもよろしいでしょうか？
決死にして必死にして万死の吸血
Title and
鬼
all.
デストピアビルトゥオーゾスーサイドマスターだ。
スーサイドマスター様ですか？
様はいらん。名前そのものが継承だ。
わかりました。私はアセロラです。
Just Acerola.
美し姫じゃないのかよ。
それは私の子供の頃の継承ならぬ別称です。今は私をそう呼ぶ人もいなくなりました。
Just her name,
だったら
nothing
ア
else.
セロラ姫と呼ばせてもらうぜ。
ご随意に。私、そもそもプリンセスでも何でもなかったんですけれどね。
I wasn't even a princess. Alright. Interesting how she says that.
どうしてこんなことになってしまったのでしょう。
So she originally wasn't one? Temptation incarnate, right? Like it's just natural. It's like an instinct, like a red apple.
どうやらまた死んでしまったらしい。
Wait, is that a heart? What's
短
happened?
時間に2度も立て続けに、それも同じ相手に殺されたのは、俺様の長い吸血鬼生活においても、もちろん食生活においても初めての経験だった。
不死身ですか。なるほど。見事なものですね、スーサイドマスター。
お褒めに預かり光栄の至りだよ、アセロラ姫。また俺様がお前を食おうとして返り討ちにあったんだな。
And she doesn't even, it's not even a conscious decision, right? It's like
どうか
instinct.
気に病まないでください、スーサイドマスター。私が美しすぎるのが悪いのです。どうやら私はこの国にも多大なる迷惑をかけて
Where do you even go with that, right?
すぐに立ち去りますのでご容赦ください。どうやらこの国にも私の探している方はいらっしゃらなかった。
Who are you seeking?
探している方、食材探し。
Somebody who can relieve her of that plight.
なんだこいつも誰かを探していたのか。
Hmm.
ああ、そういえばそんな童話だったっけ。救える命を探しての流浪の旅路。そう、美し姫はそんな童話だった。いや、それよりも立ち去る。おいおい、そんなのご容赦できるわけねえだろ。勝手な話だな。貴様が救える誰かを探すために一体どれだけの死人を出すつもりだよ。貴様一人の救いのために一体何カ国滅ぼすんだ。
Yeah, I mean,
私に死ねとおっしゃるのですか。私が死ねば私こそが自ら命を絶てば私は楽になれるかもしれま
why
せん。
can you not?
しかしいつかまた同じ問題が起こった時、同じように自ら命を絶たねばならない私のような誰かを救うことにはならないのです。
Yeah,
な
but
あ、セロラ姫、当てはあるのか。これまで通りのいつも通りに滅ぼしたこの国を出て、次に行く国ではお前が救える誰かがいると思うのか。次の国でもやっぱり同じことを繰り返すだけじゃないのか。
誤
Mhm.
解があるようですが、私は行く国すべてを滅ぼしているわけではありませんよ。
You're not?
そういうことにならないよう及ばずながらできる限りの配慮をしております。
だが限りがあるんだろう。本当に及んでいない。
It really seems to be.
貴様の美意識を否定するつもりは全くないが、考えもなく旅を続けるのは無謀だと忠告せざるを得ない。
Selfish,
それは
reckless.
確かに無謀だと言われても私は他にやり方を知らないのです。そうして放浪を続けることでしか答えにたどり着けないのです。
いや、そうでもないぞ。いいか、アセロラ姫。貴様は不本意ながらもこの王国を滅ぼした。だが、この状況を有効活用することはできる。
有
How?
効活用。
今になって慌てて出ていかなくとも、貴様がこれ以上誰かを殺す心配はないということだ。
You can search for
何をおっしゃる
information.
のです。あなたを殺す心配があるでしょ、スーサイドマスター。
俺様は不死身の化け物だぞ。
Immortal.
死ぬことなんて何でもねえ。
He's just gonna rise again.
言っておくが、そんな奴は他にはいないぞ。貴様のそばにいながらにして死んでも死んでも生き返る。俺様は貴様の相談に乗ってやれる唯一の存在だ。
And we can help each other. And I wanna eat you.
俺様は見ての通りの化け物だが、それだけではない。魔術の心得もわずかながらある。人外の年などというやつだな。な
Okay.
ので魔女が貴様にかけたという呪いを解く方法を
And you consider that a
くらい
curse?
はしてやれる。どうだ。
Supposedly. I don't know if it is a
私に
witch
協
though.
力していただける代わりに あなたは私をこの領土に引き止め、私を食べるチャンスを探りたいということですか？
ご名答。ここまで利害の一致した関係が他にあるか。
参りました。あなたと手を結ぶしかなさそうですね、スーサイドマスター。ではよろしくお願いします。
初めて彼女の肌に、彼女の肉に、衣服越しではなく直に触れた。
Yeah.
込むようなその柔らかさ、触り心地に。
She's gonna be tempted again. Of course she is.
そして
Itadakimasu. Alright, next step.
どうやらまた死んでしまったらしい。3度にわたる俺様の死は決して無駄死にでもなければ犬死にでもなかった。強いて言うなら鬼死にか。
A
鬼のように
devilish
死ん
death.
だぜ。というわけで俺様はアセロラ姫を死体城にご招待した。
Can't say it
絶対に反対で
apparently.
す。何を考えているのですか、マスター。マスターの居城内に下等なる人間を招くだなんてありえません。この私めにマスターのみならず下等なる人間の世話までしろとおっしゃるのです。
He's not just a
あ
human.
まりでございます。
貴様
Bro, just shut the fuck
俺様の世
up.
話をしているつもりだったのか。これは決定事項だ。貴様の意見を聞いたつもりはない。案ずるな。貴様に人間の世話をさせるつもりはない。というよりむしろお前はアセロラ姫に絶対に近づくなと。
Just stay the hell out of
首を
Dodge.
刺すつもりだったのだ。
You're gonna kill
ア
yourself.
セロラ姫、下等なる人間の名前をあろうことかご記憶になられたのですか、スーサイドマスター。
決死にして必死にして
Ooh,
ダン
that's
スの吸血鬼である俺様だからこそあのお姫様の防御壁をものともしなかった。貴様程度の吸血鬼ではひとたまりもあるまい。対面した瞬間バラバラになってしまうだろう。
you just shatter into pieces.
なおさらでございます、スーサイドマスター。そんな危険人物を城内に入れるなど、城を管理監督
This good reminds me of episode Tech W.
事態にてございます。
くどいぞトロピカレスク。その辺にしておけ。
Get the hell out of here,
貴様が
Tropical
一
Ass.
度決めたことを覆したことがあるか。貴様の言う通り、なかなか調理の難しい食材でな。丸飲みはできそう
I love how the throne looks like
食べられる
glass.
ようにきっちりと丹念に下ごしらえをしなくてはならないと判断した。だからそんな顔をするな。あの美貌の壁を突破し、お姫様を殺せるようになるまでの間だ。そう長くはか
These
からないよ。
shots. Holy fuck.
了解しました。
I wonder where our other minions are.
すいませんから
Because he's the only one left.
で、トロピカレスク、貴様の意見を聞きたいのだが、どうしたら美しい姫を殺せると思う？
Let me find a way to kill her. Ooh. And we stay with the Yoasobi. Makes sense though, right? Second verse is all about Shinobu. So are we gonna stay in the past for this entire arc? That would be fucking amazing. I think we have we had an arc that was only about the past? Like the way back past. If you are one of these people who is skipping the ED every time that this happens because you've already heard it, shame on you. Shame on you, okay? This is an amazing ED. You should never skip it, okay? Yoasobi is just amazing. Anyway, okay, we speed through. We analyze what's happening in like the general sense of things. And then we go into like a discussion of the shots, the direction, the art. We can't interpret as much yet because we're in the beginning of an arc. But I think we should be able to parse out some very interesting, maybe foreshadowing and some interesting details that we can later on keep in mind as the story goes on. So, let's get it up here. Boom, on the screen. It's a black screen, don't worry about it. And hopefully I am not shaking too much here when I'm doing this. I do love how we have like some puppet play-ish kind of intro. We're going into a scene where where Acerola, Hime, and Suicide Master have already met, right? They're already talking to one another. She already died a couple of times by her, and we're just jumping in to her immediate thoughts where she's like, I thought of that name, probably telling the tale after everything happened. I do wonder if the arc after this arc, or the second half of this arc, is actually going to play in the present, and it's going to feature Deftopia / Suicide Master and Kiss Shot be interacting with one another, or if this is like just an arc which is like, oh, by the way, this is what happened, and then we jump to something completely different, or if it's like this arc is just the past and the next arc is gonna, like, 4 episodes, and for example 4 episodes, the last 4 episodes of this season of Monogatari is gonna be the follow-up in the present. I mean, obviously it is very interesting to see all of these things, the backstories and whatnot, but so far anything that happened in the past and was told about the past, and anything that really has been told in the present, right? We had a narrator that was sitting in the present and being like, oh yeah, this is what happened, or at the very least close to the present. So it has to have some kind of connection to what is happening right now in the present day and time of our off-season, monster season kind of timeline. Yeah, like I said, I do love the doll-like representations that we have here. It's very interesting how we start with a small Deftopia, and we're going into like almost, I mean, I don't want to say grown up, but also grown up, because there's grown-ups who have like more of a young and smaller look, and this is how she comes across, especially with the way she dresses and whatnot. I love the dagger in the chest pocket. That is a really cool fashion statement, and the little ribbon around that one piece of hair, it's really cool, and a very unique and identifiable art style, I say, fashion style, character design, whatnot. It makes her very memorable, I feel. We do have all of these dolls lying, probably like the people she has killed, or maybe also just the people that Kiss Shot has killed, so we don't know what that exactly is referring to. To be honest, I slightly regret doing so. Perhaps I should not have given her a name. Don't give the oddity a name. Don't give the... It's almost like you feel like don't give the monster a name, because then it's gonna be even more scary, right? It's gonna become something that people can identify and whisper the name under, right? If you don't give the monster a name, then you don't pin it down, and it's more of a vague concept. But the more you give it a name, the more you put into it, right? The more thought you put into a concept or into something that you don't quite understand yet you find scary, some phenomenon, the more it gains power over you in a way. Maybe that's how I see this line of her. They often say you become attached to your pet once you've given it. Okay, I didn't remember that from the reaction, but yeah, okay, so she considers her a pet in a way, right? It's something you want to study, something you want to use to your own devices, something that is kind of adorable but beneath you in a way, right? But maybe, like, if we look into pets and we look at dogs, for example, dogs are known as the best friend of humans, so in a way, a pet can also be something that is maybe closer to you than anybody else could ever be, which I find very interesting and also very telling, because if we see the relationship of Acerola Hime, I'm sorry about me changing the camera a little bit, Acerola Hime and Deftopia here, or Suicide Master, whatever you want to call her, do let me know what I should call her, because I'm like flip-flopping a little bit. If we see their relationship, maybe it's closer to like a human and a dog, in the way that dogs, we can grow way more attached to our dogs than we can to other human beings even, and value them higher than that. Despite maybe looking down upon them as a species in general, they seem to oftentimes be emotionally closer to us due to various reasons, right? One of the reasons maybe being that they are not the same species and that there is a different relation between the two of them, and you prefer that kind of relation. And she can't identify really what this is about, right? How is she supposed to define attachment? Was friendship, affection, right? If she experiences real friendship or affection, maybe she's never done it, right? Maybe she's never experienced it. Or simply, what was that? Simply lust in something I'm unsure of in hindsight, right? Lust for killing her in this case, feeding on her. So conquering something that you were not immediately able to conquer, right? The more hard the prey is to catch, the more hard it is to kill, the more savory it will taste in the end, kind of deal. One thing that's for certain, it was not appetite. It was not pure appetite. I didn't do it for just feeding. Because Kishshot Asarorian hard on the blade doesn't sound too tasty for the name of a meal, right? She gave her a name, and the name doesn't sound like a meal. So it can't have been that when she made the decision. I do love this. It looks so fucking amazing, like with the fog clouds and the way we light certain aspects. It kind of reminds me of some of like the, for example, the Dracula castle in the Netflix Castlevania, but on a way higher level. But the atmosphere is very well fitting. Like we do have that marble floor that's shiny and reflecting every candle that's on there. We do have an extreme play with lights and shadows. She looks so much like Shinobu, or like Kishshot in some of her forms. She's eating herself. I still don't know how it works, right? You're eating yourself. What the fuck, right? She works on a conceptual level similar, but yet very differently from what we know from Kizumonogatari, from Kishshot, for example. Especially if we look at Kizumonogatari 3, when they have that fight Aragi and whatnot. And even in Kizumonogatari 2, we do have that Aragi fight with the half vampire. No, not the half vampire. That was episode the full vampire dude with the scissor hands. Dramaturgy or whatever he was called. And then Araki was also having that power where he was growing new limbs and whatnot, and when his limbs were severed, they were popping off and just disappearing and appearing again on his own skin. That is not what's happening here for her, right? She has her own limb in her hand and is eating it, so it's, in a way, it's almost an evolution, right? It's almost like two oddities mixing with Asarola Hime here becoming a vampire eventually through some means, we don't know through what, right? I do love, like I said, I wanted to talk about this, and I do love the design of her dress. It's amazing. It looks really great because I do feel like, on the one hand, she looks very noble with the way she dresses up and very beautiful, but at the same time, especially from behind, but also from even just simply looking at it from any angle, the dress still looks like a commoner's dress. It looks like she's traveling with that dress, not like she has like a princess, very fancy dress. It's more on the medium side, where like a villager or townsperson would dress up if they dress fancy, and not like a person of nobility. Love how we're playing with the light and the shadows and how we're empathizing all of these looks. And she's focusing a lot on her neck, which is probably like vampire vision, right? There's this desire constantly, especially since she is who she is. Like, this is what I meant. Like, from behind, she looks very much like she's in like a commoner's dress. From the front, it doesn't look as clear, but you still see that it's not super, super fancy. I do love how simple the design of Deathtopia's general clothing is. She seems to have more of a design that reminds me of, for example, Pandora from ReZero, in terms of just like the basic design of the dress. Very simple, but very effective in what it wants to display. Especially with like the one side being up, right? Almost over the shoulder, and the other side almost hanging down all the way here. It's showing just enough to be enticing. It's showing not too much to be not classy, if you catch my drift. black and white in between, and we do have that, holy shit, that negative shot kind of reminds me of some of the frames we had on the final Frieren fight, if you know what I mean. If you know, you know. And the half moon. We count these like 1, 2, 3 and that, but I don't know what exactly they mean, right? Like, the number of deaths we're counting on screen, I'm not sure. Do let me know what you think that is. Cause it's delicious, it's my head. You shouldn't poke your nose into something else eating habits. I'm worried about something else. What part of me would make the princess of a ruined nation worry? I'm saying you should just give up on trying to kill me, right? Because they ain't gonna happen. You're just gonna go crazy. It's absolutely impossible. She gave up on that, right? She's completely given up on any hope that she can get killed in any way, shape, or form. I didn't know Kishad used to have heterochromia. Very interesting. Or Acerola in this case. Not Kishad. Kishad probably her later form. Picture book-esque, right? Absolutely stunning. Just from a visual angle. Outrageous to say that the reason why you've been dying over and over like that would lie with me. If you had not tried to kill me, you would not have died even once. Right? Don't blame it on me, blame it on your own desire to kill me. It's not an intent to kill, it's an appetite. She says it here, but later she's like, clearly wasn't just appetite between the two of us. She's kind of Tsuni there, or at the very least she's not admitting or realizing that it's more than just appetite. If you can manage to, Muji's just try it. Fucking entertain, try it. He's like, I can't change it anyway, you just fucking try it. I'm telling you, it ain't gonna work. But we repeat the cycle over and over, and every time she supposedly dies, or at the very least, every time we like, we change scenes. Love that ripping thing. Suicide Master. Funny that she's called Suicide Master, because she's kind of suicide herself with that. I don't know why she's called that, right? Because you're like, if she's the master of inevitable death and whatnot, wouldn't she be Homicide Master? I don't know. It seems I've met my death for the 5th time. But then we jump scenes, and this is the 3rd time she died? Maybe? Possibly? It seems I've died yet again. From the nuances, I feel it looks like I starved to death this time. Starving to death is unusual. What in the world happened to me? So she died once before, at least. If we take the 3, she died 3 times before. This is weird though, because love that angle, because it's just like her legs apart, which is like very dominant gesture in this specific angle, because you're looking from down there, you're looking up at something imposing, especially with the throne behind her, which is going out of frame. If the throne was still in frame and ended in frame, it wouldn't be as imposing, but here it feels like a wall or a pillar that's standing in front of you. And this pillar is kind of reinforcing her as she's sitting on it. And she's looking down on you, right? Looking down on you is already a metaphor for your power dynamics being out of whack, but also just the way she is not being protective. Because if you're protective, you're like having your arms like that, or you're having like your legs tucked in. No, she's sitting just very not I want to say, don't want to say casually, but because she is exercising her presence here, but she's making herself wide in the sense of her stature, and she's having her arms hang down in a way that implies that she is not expecting you to be able to do anything to her. She's imposing on you, you're not imposing on her in any way. If you took any long to awaken while thinking of having you eat me, holy shit, that floor is so fucking shiny. Lack of food, the entire kingdom starved. And he explains that, right? Beauty of a ruined nation. And that's why the kingdom fell to ruin. Love all of the Gothic architecture in this entire thing. This could be like, if you think about it, I do think of, when I look at that, I think of Bloodborne, of like the Queen of the Vile Bloods, for example. That I think of, like the throne room she sits in, or the entrance hall when you go into the Vile Blood Castle. That is something I'm very much reminded of. Obviously, media influences itself, right, influences each other pieces of media. And this is both Japanese media, very close to one another. We have vampire stories there as well. We have blood stories there as well. All of that stuff. Human. Many nations have come to ruin. So she went on a journey through a lot of nations and they all died. That sounds more than fitting to be my first meal in a while. And she's got the attitude, right? She's got the panache of a ruler, of a cruel, like, above everybody else, kind of very particular about what I eat. Don't think Shinobu was, when she was, or Hishad was, very particular about who she's eating. At least in certain circumstances. Maybe she was for a while. Must be special food. I love how he's just completely in darkness and the light is piercing, because a second ago there wasn't a light, but we're doing that to put on the drama, right? To put it in the right light. What do I feel when I'm looking at that? Feels he's just a player in the game, right? He's just a player in the game. He's an actor on a stage and he's trying to put his appeal down here. But she's like, for her, he's in complete darkness, right? The scene later, you do see there's no light shining on him. So he tried to put on the act and be like trying to influence her in a way. But she's untouched by that. Tropical-esque. Why is that his name, right? Is he in some way or form tropical? Is he from a tropical nation? Look at that. The way her face is flatly in shadows and just barely lit. You don't only see the outlines of it. It feels like there's, again, same theme. She's not affected by whatever he's trying to put into her, right? Whatever he's trying to pause. In whatever way he's trying to influence her with his words. Like, are you implying I would fall to her beauty, that I would be affected by it? How dare you? And she's kind of putting him down by being like, you might eat corpses, I don't. I only eat humans that I killed myself. 5. Suddenly we have a 5. So what the fuck do these Roman numerals mean? I kill and eat, that's my policy. Maybe it's her rules, but that's weird. We don't have that clear structure. Both as a vampire and as a gourmet, that is a stance I cannot yield on. I want to eat as little as possible if it was food that I did not kill myself, right? If I have to, I will. Right, to survive maybe. But I reject anything more than that. And I feel like I want to kill and eat a beauty from a fallen nation. Doing what I decide upon and doing it in the manner I decide on is who I am, right? I want, nobody else matters. I do what I want, and when I make a decision, I'm not gonna go back on it. Very much interesting, the parallels with what we have with Shinobu and whatnot. She did go back on some decisions later down the line, but that was after a lot of character development in the show itself. Doing what I decide upon, yeah. And this is like a Kagenui moment. This is like a Kagenui moment, but in the bad way. But bro needs to wipe his pants after that, the way he sounded after that. He is, I do love the angle, that's a great angle, right? The tilted angle. And how she's just perfectly in darkness. And just a little bit of light on her feet and on her head a little bit. And then we look at it from, I mean, I don't know if I like that, to be honest, but it's a really interesting angle as we look at it from the ceiling, basically. I don't recall allowing usage of such an ordinary title. The vampire of prepared death, right? She's preparing the death, she's killing them herself. Or maybe you should be prepared for death if you meet her. Inevitable death, right? You're gonna die sooner or later when you meet her. Or when you, right? Or maybe also, if you think about it, vampires are creatures that are in mythology mostly immortal. And as such, everybody else around them that is not a vampire would probably be dying eventually. So it's inevitable death. And then we have certain death, which, well, makes sense, right? It's just to reinforce it. I still like the iron-blooded, cold-blooded, hot-blooded better of like Kiss Shot, but it's cool. We have the Deftopia, which I'm like, what's that? That's a little bit tacky, but the Virtuoso is interesting because I feel like, I guess that kind of implies that for her that killing and all of that surrounding that, hunting for sport kind of, right? That it's kind of almost like an art form, right? Or something one does revel in and perfect as a skill, right? Virtuoso in this way, somebody very talented. Makes sense with the gourmet that she put down earlier. I'm still not getting the suicide, but maybe we'll get that sooner or later. I mean, this is a new character. We haven't been introduced properly to anything more than what we've seen here. There's still like the crescent moon and her being right in the middle of into dark. And we're looking down at just people being absolutely dead, devastated, lying on the floor around like beautiful structures here. And even like in the landscapes, pierced by tree branches hung up on them, and as if they jumped down on those or hanged themselves and all of these things, took poison, stabbed themselves, starved themselves, all of these things, right? All kinds of things to do here. But it's very, the landscape she's going past is very Vlad the Impaler-esque, right? The origin of the vampire stories. I do love how we use a lot of grayscale here for like the moonlit night. It's like not even bluish, but very, very gray. As if we're like underlining the atmosphere that seeps through the entire country, that everything is dead. We do have the same when we look at, for example, the intro of Dark Souls, where we talk about like a time when, or an era, an age when time didn't really exist, where we do have everlasting dragons and arch trees and whatnot, and there's no disparity, and this is basically that in a way. By the way, that's not really spoilers, that's literally the intro, like the OP cinematic of Dark Souls 1. And she's looking in and everything is grayscale, and the only thing that's lit up is the fire itself and her, right? She's the only one who's really in color. So there's a certain warmth that is coming from her, and when she looks at her, she has that surprise on her face, and in the next second we do see fire sparking, right? We see the little flames going up, and that is, right, metaphorically, I think it could represent passion. It could represent how some fire is lit underneath her as she gazes upon this being that is in many ways supernatural, because then she blacks out and she doesn't remember anything until she wakes up and she's like, I must have died. You were only dead for a short while. You killed yourself, yeah, because you tried to kill me. Right, and she's very calm about it, obviously at this point, because she has to be very emotionally reserved. If you've been subject to all of these people killing themselves because of you as like a phenomenon, and you don't know, right, at some point you're gonna kill your emotion, at some point you can't take it anymore, so you distance yourself from that, you detach. And that's, I mean, in this specific case it's very supernatural, but in the case of reality, this is a normal mechanism that we do have and tend to display sometimes. That you see that a lot in healthcare workers when they're working for a long time and very close to death, very close to tragedy, very close to a lot of shit happening, they detach emotionally. And you'll get to the point where you do maybe feel that these people are more cold, right? Unaffected by things than you would expect a person to be, and you might wrongly assume that they're just bad people, or that they don't have empathy. But the problem is that at this point, maybe they had too much empathy or also just a normal level of empathy, and that got overwhelmed over the course of many, many years of working in a field where there is constant human lives at stake, human danger, where people are constantly in pain and suffering and all of that. And at some point you do have to detach yourself, because you can't, as a normal human being that cares about other human beings, that has empathy, you can't deal with that on a consistent level without finding a way to properly cope with that. Now, if burnout and emotional detachment are not a way to properly deal with it, yes, of course, but it's functional, right? I do say that often. It's functional, it works to a degree. Yes, you can get a lot of other issues as a result of that. For example, you can make it worse for people who are coming in and actually need to be treated by you, or you can have trouble in your personal relationships by being that way, by not being able to turn that mode off anymore at some point in time. But in a way, right, for the main purpose of just avoiding literally breaking upon what's happening in front of you on a day-to-day basis because of your job and the environment you live in, it's definitely functional. Not only did I hesitate on harming your beauty, but I couldn't forgive myself for committing such a savage act, and I tried to commit suicide. It's like, I'm a monster, I'm a vampire. I do love that. Look at that shot. Look at the shot. It looks so fucking satisfying. You're like sitting in front of the pot, and on the one hand you have a very homogeneous background, right? A very samey background, a very smooth background. On the other one you have a very, very disordered background, like a stone wall that has very varying crevices in it. And her face is in the middle, slightly asymmetrical, because you do have on the one hand the haircut doesn't look exactly the same as on the other hand, but symmetrical enough to make your brain tingle, right? Because in the middle we do have that separator, and the angle chosen, it's such an amazing angle. I do love that. And again, we do have everything that's further away, that's attached more to Suicide Master is dark. It's black, right? It's gray, not grayish in this case, in this very shot, but it's black. It's dark. It's not lit up, and everything that is close to her, especially like the fireplace and whatnot, we're using that to light her up as an individual and create that contrast between the two of them. Also, look at that Shinobu behavior of her, like just hanging upside down like a bat. Interesting what she's doing here. Your actions were an attempt to eat me. I apologize for being unable to abide by that request. She's kind of grimacing at that. That politeness, that extreme politeness, but very detached politeness. This is not like a person who's like, oh, I'm very sorry that I did that. It's like more formal, right? Like very, very far away, very not coming closer to you emotionally. It's like, I'm very sorry that I did that to you. Very cold. And something about that attitude rubs her the wrong way, I think. What the fuck? You're French princess? We got Marie Antoinette, or what the fuck? I mean, she came to Japan. She came to Japan later, so it makes sense that this is not her country of origin. I would assume that maybe the setting we're looking at is European, pseudo-European, right? And maybe Deathtopia's country here is more like close to the origin of the vampire story with Transylvania and whatnot. I can imagine that. Makes sense, would make very much thematic sense as well. You have various fables in Europe as well, where it's about inner beauty and outer beauty and kind of witches fulfilling your wishes, but not in the way you might have wanted to. Still, I'm not sure if the witch actually cursed her, if this was more of the witch actually tried to fulfill her wish in her own desire, and then suddenly it was like, oh shit, I fucked up. Or if this was just, yeah, I mean, if it was just fulfilling the desire, even in the way she wanted to, but she didn't expect the actual effect of that, right? Nobody expected that her inner beauty was even more overwhelming than her outer beauty, and as a result of that, nobody expected people to go crazy as a result of that. Then she's introducing herself. Look at that back. Holy fuck. I mean, she's almost wearing nothing at this point. But yeah. And we have the neck tilt. Love it, love it. Not in that way, but at the very least in this way. So absolutely. I mean, I think it's cool that they put their own spin on it, right? The new shaft. That they actually managed to do that in their own unique way without one-to-one copying the old neck tilt of pre-Ovari Monogatari. I do love how we're playing with the shadow on the wall. The fire is now out, and there is like Asarola is very boxed in while she's standing on the table, right? Deftopia is standing on the table and she's making herself very, very large, very impressive, although being a good deal smaller than her. And she's introducing herself in proper manner and everything is sparkling, and this is, again, she's taken aback by that. And she's asking her, look at that shot, that's amazing too, like behind the candle, and we're telling these things, and we do have that, which is kind of a calming gesture, right? A gesture to kind of, it shows that she has discomfort talking about these things. And it would make sense, right? Talking about this extreme trauma of ruining your own kingdom even though you didn't want to. And speaking of a past that is very painful and is very lonely probably as well. Thinking about that, right? She's not known anyone, and in this specific regard, I do feel like, look at the shadow on the wall. The shadow on the wall is so amazing. The way we frame this. I wasn't even a princess or anything to begin with. What does that mean? Right? Does it mean she wasn't worthy of that, or does it mean in the literal sense that she wasn't, and she became at some point because she was so beautiful and people put her up on a pedestal? And then she became the princess. And this is how she ruined the nation and how she then got to the point where she is now. Feels weird that she says she wasn't one to begin with. Sounds like in the very beginning she wasn't. And do have that switch, that short switch of the point of view. Looking at her from behind as she's kind of almost demure-like, right? Putting her head down. Well, now things ended up this way, and this is a very kiss shot, Kisu Monogatari shot, I feel, right? The way she's framed here, specifically, like, feels very reminiscent of some of the Kisu Monogatari shots. But this is the most insane thing for me, and I said that last episode as well, right in the interlude. I wasn't aware of how magnetizing and tempting she was even before being a vampire. It felt like in the beginning of Monogatari, when we first gotten to know her, it felt a lot like all of these things came from her vampire powers. Maybe they do specifically, right? Because the vampire powers amplify this, right? The vampire powers kind of amplify, maybe in a way, the characteristics a person had in their life before undead, which would make perfect sense to me, right? Amplifying all of these things. Maybe conjoined and intermingled with what people conceptualize as vampires in mythology. But yeah, I assumed that this wasn't a thing before her vampire days, but it was. And not just a little bit, but extremely so. But I should have known, because Soku kind of alluded to that. I do love these, like these... what do they remind me of? Because I think I've seen something like that before. Like the way the red line art. Maybe it's like the early days of Monogatari. I feel like this is early days of Monogatari, but it's also a couple of other series. Maybe Kill la Kill in a way. I do have some other series that use this kind of style to represent like this inner, these very deep inner instinctual feelings in a way. And we show an 8. And then we have the apple as the heart. Very interesting. I don't know how to understand that. If this is an actual heart or if it's not, right? But she says that, right? Choosing my heart wouldn't be anything less, right? How fresh it is, though it's dead. And we're getting to know one another. Again, such amazing shots. Everything is dark here except for her and her background. By the way, my camera is, like my SD card is out of space soon, so we're gonna switch over after that. Probably I'm gonna use that to actually just... We did a lot of like already picture analysis-ish, so we're going further into that in the closer discussion. I do apologize that it's a little bit unstructured this time around. So we're gonna make the first part of the episode. We're gonna look over a little bit quicker in the proper discussion, and then we're gonna look a little bit closer on like the second part. And she suggests something which is very interesting, like, I cannot die from you, at least not effectively, completely. So why don't you stick around and we're gonna just try to, right? Because I have that desire, I want to eat you, but I can't figure out how, so I'm gonna need time for that. So you stick around, maybe you'll find something out, right? And I do assume that it's maybe like, you can question me about all kinds of myths and legends and whatever I know, but also maybe you can look around and see what kind of books are telling you maybe something interesting about everything, because everybody here is already dead, so you can't do any more damage than you already did. Although Acerola is kind of hesitant and is like, I could still do damage to you, maybe not on like a physical level, but on other levels. I don't want to impose that on you. But she offers that like a mutual agreement. And they join hands. This entire episode, like, I said that in the beginning, but to say that as like a closing kind of statement, I do feel like it's very cool how different from an artistic perspective this very episode is from everything else we've seen in the past. Even like the last interlude, but especially the previous arcs. This is not Monogatari at all. This is very different, and it shows that the people at Shaft have an immense talent to actually display things depending on the specific atmosphere that they want to achieve, right? The kind of mood that they want to get their viewer into, and they have a very, very good art team behind that to display that properly, because everything about this episode felt very, very entertaining. Yeah. That was the discussion, because I don't have any more time. If you did like it, do leave me a like and subscribe. I would really appreciate it. Check out the Discord and Patreon. The links are in the description down below. And the discussion is going to be linked right here after the outro. And I would say, no, right here. And also after the outro, I think it's going to be the upper thing that's going to be recommended. I'll see you all hopefully in the discussion where we talk more about the second part of the episode and also about the art in general. See you then.